All right. Good evening. Welcome to a meeting of the North Penn School District's Board of School Directors, March 10th, 2015. Tonight is our regularly scheduled work session. The meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they're being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone, state their name and address, and sign our Audience of Citizens logbook. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments. To allow time for all those who wish to speak to the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker, and this is in reference to Board Policy 8340. Again, welcome. I'd like to start the meeting off with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Chernock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Chernock. All right, we're going to move forward with our elementary discussion for our elementary and middle school boundary realignments.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
will
President.
take public comment when they're done with their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening we do have a presentation regarding our elementary and middle school boundary realignments, and with us this evening we have Dr. Santoro, our Director of Elementary Education, and Dr. McKay, our Director of Secondary Education and Professional Development. Dr. Santoro and McKay will be leading this presentation, perhaps with some supplementation from Dr. Holman and from me.
Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. I ask you to look at the PowerPoint as we move through. So at the elementary level, the rationale for doing some boundary realignment is due to the increased enrollment in the Lansdale area. A little bit later, Dr. McKay will talk about the increase in enrollment in the Hatfield area that has an impact on the middle schools. So schools serving those areas have increased in enrollment, and other schools in the district have decreased in enrollment. And the two schools we're looking at the elementary level, we're looking at KNAPP Elementary and York Elementary that are being the most affected by the enrollment shifts. So on this slide, we're showing you the trends for York and KNAPP, and you can see starting in 2010, the enrollments for each of those buildings. And as we progress through the years, how the enrollment has increased. And then we're showing you what their projected enrollment is for the year 15-16. So you can see KNAPP next year is projected to have 674 kids, and York Avenue was projected to have 370. So our recommendations at this time is that based on these increases and the likelihood that we know that they will continue, we are recommending that we realign the boundaries for York and also that we realign the boundaries for KNAPP. And we do have those maps attached in your packet tonight. So approximately 67 students will be reassigned from York Ave to GWYN-NOR. GWYN-NOR has the capacity to take on more students. They have available classrooms, full-size classrooms. The staffing would be adjusted between those two schools. However, the big important thing to remember here is that the students will remain assigned to PENNDALE for their middle school, because students that we are reassigning are located right in this immediate area, and they're basically all around the PENNDALE area where it's walking distance for them. All the sixth graders that are currently at York will be given the option to remain at York.
Rising sixth graders.
Rising sixth graders, correct. So the rising sixth graders will be given that option. So I listed there all the streets that are impacted by this realignment. So with the projected enrollment for 15-16, York Avenue projected with 370. We're reducing them by 67 students. So that'll give us a revised projection for 303 students for next year. GWYN-NOR, their projected enrollment is 595 for 15-16. And with an increase of 67 students, that'll take us to 662. The next realignment is KNAPP Elementary to Montgomery. So we're reassigning approximately 111 students from KNAPP to Montgomery. Once again, Montgomery does have the capacity to enroll more students. They have available classroom space, and the staffing again will be adjusted between the two schools. What's of note here is that the students reassigned to Montgomery will attend Pennbrook, because that is their natural feeder pattern. for Montgomery to go to Pennbrook, and students will be bused there. Once again, current fifth graders going into sixth grade will be given the opportunity to remain at KNAPP if they so desire. And listed there are all the streets impacted by that move. So we're showing here the projected numbers for KNAPP for next year for 15-16. It would be 674 with the reduction of 111. We'll get KNAPP down to about 563. And then Montgomery projected for 563. If we increase them, 111, it'll take us to 674. Yes. About 8 students, yes. Okay.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the secondary and what the rationale is for our boundary realignment. So what we want to do is that we want to better equalize the student numbers at Pennbrook and Penfield, and also at the same time reduce the student enrollment numbers at Penndale. Both Pennbrook and Penfield do have the capacity to enroll more students when we're looking at our rationale for secondary schools. So the recommendation that we're making in order to attain a better distribution of students across all middle schools, we're recommending that there would be a realignment of boundaries for Pennbrook and also a realignment of boundaries for Penfield. So when we're thinking about and looking at the realignment from Penndale to Pennbrook, we're looking at 37 students. Pennbrook does have the capacity to enroll more students. We would adjust staffing if needed. Sixth graders would be assigned to Pennbrook for middle school. Seventh and eighth graders, so current seventh and eighth graders, would be given an option to remain at Penndale. And the impacted streets are those same streets as the area from KNAPP to Montgomery, and the street names are indicated here.
And just so we're clear,
Sure.
since there's some reference to sixth graders, in this case, we're talking about students that are presently in sixth grade who are
Correct.
going to seventh.
That's
The other
correct.
slide, it was rising sixth graders.
Yes, so that's correct. So when we're looking at the numbers, so when you look at the Penndale projection for 15-16, we're looking at 1351 students with a reduction of 37 students that we're recommending would be moved to Pennbrook. We would be looking at a student enrollment of 1314. For Pennbrook, their anticipated enrollment is 843 students. With an increase of 37 students, we will be looking at a projected enrollment of 880 students. The next realignment that we're looking at is Penndale to Penfield. And we're looking at reassigning approximately 113 students to Penfield. Penfield does have the capacity to enroll more students. Staffing would be adjusted between the two schools. And again, we're talking about our current sixth graders would be assigned to Penfield for middle school when they move into middle school next year. Our current seventh and eighth graders would be given an option to remain at Penndale. Because there were many streets to list here, so I thought it would be best to just talk about the impacted neighborhood. So when you think about the area between Orvilla, Schwab, Moyer, Line, Lexington, and Trey-Wigtown in the Hatfield area, that's the impacted neighborhood.
And of course, you do have a map of that area in your packet as well.
Yes. So when we're looking at the numbers, when we're looking at the Penndale number of the projected enrollment of 1314, that reflects a reduction of the 37 students to Pennbrook. So now with an additional reduction of 113 students, we're looking at an anticipated revised enrollment at Penndale for next year as being 1,201 students. For Penfield, the projected enrollment is 748 students for next year. With the reassignment of 113 students, we will be looking at a projected enrollment of 861 for Penfield, and the number for Pennbrook is 880. So it brings us into that alignment of trying to equalize the numbers between Penfield and Pennbrook.
Is the capacity across the, is the capacity across the middle schools the same? And what is that capacity?
It is. Several years ago, our middle schools were up to 950, and the buildings are identical, and they do have similar capacity. Their building structures are the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Correct. It does.
We have
But we've
all
had-
of Hatfield Elementary over there right now, so yeah,
Right.
we have the capacity to add those students.
Beyond that, though, we've sunk a lot of money into
Sure.
renovating both buildings.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
All right, can I ask you a question? Are we done with the presentation?
I was just going to go into some transition parts, okay?
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
So for the next piece of this, we just want to talk about some ideas that we've been floating around for transition for our students. So at the elementary level, pending board approval, the first step that we'll take is we'll send letters, will be mailed home to all the families. Our next board meeting, our action meeting is on March 19th, and we will mail those letters out on the 20th. And in that letter would also include the transition plans for the students for both schools, for KNAPP and York. In addition to that, I would like to send a school messenger to those families. It'll be very generic, just really referencing them to the website and that a letter is coming home. So transition activities for parents and guardians at the elementary level. At York Ave Elementary, we will hold an information night for parents, for students that will be leaving York. And we'll have that at York at 7 o'clock on April 7th. And the two principals, Mrs. Mosley, the current principal of York, along with the student's new principal, Mrs. Hoke, will be joining together to address any questions that parents would have. Then we have KNAPP Elementary on March 30th. We'll have an information meeting at KNAPP Elementary at 7 p.m. And we'll have both principals there again. The existing principal of KNAPP, our current principal, Mrs. Mann, and then accompanied by Dr. Arney, the student's new principal from Montgomery. Then we would like to offer the elementary students a tour, because we think it's important that they go over to see their new school, get a little bit familiar with the lay of the land, get to meet some folks. So at KNAPP, for the KNAPP students, they'll visit Montgomery on May 11th. You can see there the times. Tour by the student council, a little getting to know you activity, and they'll meet key staff. The York students will visit GWYN-NOR, and they'll have the same type of activity on May 12th. And, they'll get to meet the staff and become familiar with GWYN-NOR. And we will provide the transportation for both schools. At the end of the year, the students that will be leaving KNAPP and leaving York will be recognized at their end-of-the-year assembly. We thought that it would be nice if the students would receive a certificate, just saying, you were part of the KNAPP community, the York Avenue community, and then, they'll get a piece of memorabilia, something to remember the elementary school that they were in. And we'll make sure that there's consistency between the two elementary schools. Then the next phase of this, we would like to offer a summer transition activity for both parents and students. So right when school gets out, about that time, we would like to have a visitation and overview at Montgomery School for the principal to do an overview, and the parents and students can tour again, meet some staff. And then likewise, on June 18th at 6:30, we'll be doing the same thing at GWYN-NOR. So we're trying to offer multiple opportunities for kids and their parents to transition. And then the last piece, if parents can't make the June dates, we always have the new family orientations in all of our buildings that are in late August. So that'll be another opportunity.
Now, our secondary transition plan for sixth grade, our current sixth graders, again, pending school board approval, we will be sending letters home to our families that are impacted by the alignment, and will include the transition plan as well as a map of the realignment area. Course selection information will also be transferred to the respective middle schools, because we're in the middle right now of our course selection process. So we would ensure and make sure that the new building receives that information. Students who participate in the spring visitation at Pennbrook, we're looking at the week of May 26th for that activity to occur. And for PENNFIELD, it's the week of May 4th. And our principals communicate with one another, our middle school and elementary principals coordinate that. And then last, for grade 6 transition, the student participation in our grade 7 orientation that we will be holding on August 31st. And that's when the students have the opportunity to come in before the teachers begin at the very, before the school year begins, where the students have the opportunity to tour the building, get acquainted with the lockers, with the schedules, and all those fun things. So our transition plan for our current seventh and eighth graders, again, is depending the school board approval, that the letters would be mailed home. We would include the transition plan as well as a map of the realignment area. The course selection information would also be forwarded to the new schools. Students would have the opportunity to participate in a summer building tour over the summer, and we also have a new student orientation program for new students that also takes place on August 31st.
And the only other thing I would add to that is in both the elementary and the secondary, we would do something similar to when we did the last realignment from Penndale to Pennbrook, and ask the affected families who have students either entering sixth grade at York or KNAPP, or who are currently in seventh or eighth grade at Penndale, whether they choose to attend the new school the next year or stay at their remaining school, so that we can get an idea of which school, which students are going to be at which school.
There were 3 principals that were referenced in the PowerPoint present this evening, so I'd like to introduce them also. Mrs. Mann, principal of Knapp Elementary, Mrs. Mosley, principal of York Avenue Elementary, and Dr. Arney, principal of Montgomery Elementary.
All right. Any board questions before I take public comment?
Yeah, just, again,
Wait a minute, Frank, let me start with Johnny
I'm
and then
sorry.
work our way this way. Ladies, do you have anything to say?
yeah, how long, oh, I'm sorry. Apologize.
I just want to say, I did get a call from
Turn on your microphone for us, the microphone.
I did get a call from a parent, and they were really cute. They said their son had come home and said that they were in seventh grade at Penndale, and that they were going, involved with the movement, but they were able to stay at Penndale, and she didn't believe him. So I said, yes, he'll be able to stay.
Johnny?
How long will this, anytime every redistricting is done, people are always concerned, and I've been asked the question of how long does the administration think that this will last before they have to do another redistricting? I know that's a loaded question, because there's a lot of things we don't know about the future, but, obviously, we want to do move as least student, but yet have the longest effect, so I understand that, but is there any idea regarding that, Dr.?
It's a great question. It's a great question, Mr. Schilling. I think that the administration is making a responsible recommendation here. It's very difficult to be able to guarantee anything, of course, and I know you're not asking for a guarantee, but it's difficult to know. We are moving a number of students now in York Avenue. We've done it for the last 2 years there, so I'm hoping that we're going to be good for York Avenue for a while. But that community is turning over. You're seeing a lot of the houses being bought by younger parents with younger children, so it's a popular place to be.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, Deb, I've got numbers in front of me for the middle schools for the last 8 years.
Okay.
Your numbers are going below to have recorded back to 2005. So you're projecting for Penndale to be at 1201
Yes.
after you move these kids, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So for the last 7, 8 years, we've been fine? Are we overcrowded? We have,
We're not overcrowded at Penndale, but we would like to, we have a lot of students there. I wouldn't say we're overcrowded in the sense that the classes aren't overcrowded, that sort of thing, but we'd like to equalize the size a little bit more and get the size so that we don't have one middle school that's almost double the size of the other 2 middle schools.
well, yeah.
It's been that way for a while.
Yeah.
It's just that, I'm just concerned that nothing's been done for 8 years, and now all of a sudden, actually for Penfield also, because they're both going down.
Aging population,
Correct.
right?
That's correct. So it seemed like a good time to make the move because the enrollment at Penndale and Pennbrook has been down the last few years.
And I was prepared for the elementary, but not the middle schools. So I'm going to ask the question. You've talked to both principals?
Absolutely,
And you've walked through?
Yep.
No kids in a hallway? No kids in
Absolutely.
a closet?
absolutely. Yep,
No 45 kids in a class?
no,
I'm just,
not
I'm
at
just,
all,
I
no.
talked with both principals, and I did a walkthrough of both of the buildings.
okay.
Deb, do you want to go to the podium to?
I think I heard most of what you said.
Well, I just want to make sure for the TV as
Okay.
well. that
So yes,
they can hear.
so to address the question, I have done a walkthrough with both of the building principals at both Pennbrook and Pennfield. Walked the building with them, talked about any concerns that they would have, and both principals were on board that they can accommodate the number of students that we're suggesting. And as a matter of fact, they also shared with me that in past years, that they have had many more than even the 880, which is what we're anticipating would be at Pennbrook.
And the cafeterias would be okay, too?
Yes, I
Will they
addressed
be
those questions.
changing staff?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Will there be increasing, decreasing staff, or the same?
We are going to look at the staffing and adjust the staffing as needed between our middle schools.
We may end up moving some staff from PENNDALE to the other two middle schools because of the shift in students. We have to sit down and take a look at what staffing shifts might be necessary.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Deb.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mrs. Charnock?
Yes, thank you. I have a question regarding busing. Is there any impact to busing, and will that information be provided at the open house sessions?
In terms of impact to busing,
If, different times, different routes?
yeah, the Transportation Department will need to look at the bus runs and develop new runs, I'm sure, to accommodate students attending a different school than they've attended in the past. And once those bus runs are developed over the summer, families would be notified.
Thank you.
Just for a history lesson, Mr. Shilling and I were talking about this earlier. At one point, we had 1,640 people, or students at
Sure.
Penfield, or Penndale.
Absolutely.
We had 1,100 at one and 1,080 at the other, so we have plenty of space. I know that. Now, special education has taken more space from us.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Without a doubt.
My concerns with any redistricting are the effects on the family and the kids. So I guess I'm going to ask the principals, is that enough? Or do we need to do the Eric model of banjos and welcomes and all the other things that he tried to do to welcome the new students to his school and make them feel at home and comfortable? And also, there's an investment factor, obviously, by the parents if they're involved in the home and school associations and they're being transferred. And obviously, they can take their efforts and their energies and their resources and go with that to the other school. But that's been an issue in the past, too, because some of those people are major players in the home and school associations. So the real question is, how do we try to address that, at least in an equitable fashion? There's no easy way to do that.
Absolutely.
But can you tell me possibly what other things you might want to do? Because this is, I'm not giving you a credit card here, but I'm willing to give you what you want to make it work.
First of all, let me say good evening to everyone. I think we really need to take the lead from the parents when we meet with them at our first initial meet and greet and listen to what they feel is best for the transition for their students when they come to Montgomery, GWYN-NOR, or York Avenue. My responsibility is, like you said, Mr. Szymanski, is to the kids and making sure their transition is smooth and seamless and, quickly fit into the fabric of their new school. So from my perspective as a principal at Montgomery, I'm going to listen very astutely to the parents and take the lead from them and maybe cooperatively develop a plan for rollout for their kids. I think the biggest, thing that we need to do, and I was talking to my guidance counselor today about that, is having the kids come on the bus, getting involved in the activities, and making them feel at home at their new school.
Is there any benefit to doing a TIEP for these kids?
I'm not really about the paperwork for any transfer. You're talking about
Transfer individual education plan, so these kids know where they're going and who they're going to have and what they're going to say.
Well,
And I know you make those assignments during the summer sometimes, so I know that that's flexible, but.
I think every student that's coming to us will be as unique as the ones we have. And, if they have a special need academically, emotionally, we'll meet them where they are, and we'll help them grow for the remainder of the time that they're in their new schools.
In 18 years, redistricting is the four-letter word in school board service, I can tell you that. But one of the bigger concerns always is that to address that student fear and that parent fear of a new building, regardless of whether it's new or old or whatever. I don't really have a lot of advice for you on that, other than to meet these kids at the door and do everything you can to welcome them to the school, even holding a school-wide assembly to welcome these kids, because it's a tough transition. Now, I will say there's an advantage that parents won't acknowledge, but when these children have been moved from one elementary school to another, when they get to the middle schools, they have a lot of friends. And I know there's a benefit in that way. 'cause
And
I know
I'll
my kids are
guarantee you,
like-
they'll have a lot of friends within the first few weeks at their
Yeah,
new schools,
I really hope
too.
so. But I will tell you from a board perspective, I'm willing to give you what you need to make this work.
Well, thank you.
But
I
not
think
a
we
credit
have
card.
I think we have a nice community within the school. The kids are whenever we have a new student, they're like a rock star. You know, they're greeted by all their classmates and made felt welcome. I don't see any difference with the community at GWYN-NOR or Montgomery at all.
It's a difficult task this time to do this kind of an approach because we're going from one place to another, because the way the enrollment's changing, even though we do have dropping enrollment in aging populations, we don't have that population change in a perfect straight line for us. And we have schools that are feeling the pressures of changing enrollment. I call it the regentrification as older folks are moving out and younger people are moving in with families. So this one's going to be a little bit different than in the past for us. So that's why I think it would behoove us to be ready to help them in any transition needs they have.
I just happened to think of something else. On transportation, yeah, I know we want to keep, when you guys get into discussing this, we want to keep that time down because the
Absolutely.
kids coming in there at the end,
Yep,
the boundaries.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's,
Well, in some
You know.
cases, you're talking only a mile or two here. You gotta remember, there's only, sometimes you're only talking about a mile or two here. And
Right.
It's not super far away here. We're not going from one end of town to the other. Yeah, that's part of the redistricting, is sharing that border and being able to move that border. So that's an advantage. But you're right, there is an issue all the
Sure.
time, looking at those things.
Sure.
Mr. Sullivan?
Maybe one bus for us.
Thank you, Mr. Shapinsky. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much. It's obvious that you put a lot of thought into this and analysis and coming up with this plan. And I know at the core of it is what's in the best interest of the students and the families involved. So again, thank you very much. Just an observation, when I saw that 37 students were moving from Pennbrook to
Penndale to Pennbrook.
Penndale to Pennbrook.
Right.
I'm like, only 37? And then when you brought up, I think it was 111, it made a lot more sense. So, so that it sort of took a little while for me to catch on. The other piece was, one time, Mr. Sapinski and I were here, and there was an issue that was getting a lot of attention. And somebody came up to us after the meeting and started complaining about how they never heard about what was going on. And Mr. Shapinsky said, I don't understand. We advertised in the paper, we put it on the radio, we sent out emails, and it was on the district website. Well, I don't pay attention to those things. So I guess the point behind that story is, are you going to have some sort of positive feedback from them, from the students involved, especially the parents, that they understand that their students are going to be moved in the following year? So there's no surprise, they're not waiting at the wrong bus stop?
Right, well, that's why when we send out the letter, we're going to make sure that the letter is very clear and detailed to all the
Right.
students that are being impacted by this. And in addition to that, the school messenger will also help us just to call those families and alert them where to look to the website, to look for a letter coming home. So we're really trying to get the communication out so that parents know to go and look for it. Plus, at the building level, the principals will be working closely with those families to make sure that they're fully aware of what's happening.
Okay, so there's going to be a checkoff list,
Yes.
and they're going to say, okay, somebody actually spoke to this person, and they know that they're moving next year.
Well, we can come up with some
Sure.
sort of a check and balance to make sure that that does
Because
happen.
that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what, you've been around long
Yeah.
enough, you know that
Yeah.
somebody's not going
Yeah.
to get the message, no matter
Yes.
how many times. So that would be my only concern. Thank you.
Maybe even have like a sign-off form and them signing it and sending it back
Right,
if they've read the
some sort
letter.
of positive reinforcement to.
That we know that they're
suggest
aware.
They are aware.
Okay, that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
And
Mr.
the
Brown?
same thing would apply for our secondary schools. And in addition to what's going to go home with a letter, for their current 7th and 8th graders, there's going to be a cutoff form at the bottom of it, so that if the students are choosing to stay at Penndale for next year, they're going to be able to return that form to Dr. O'Sullivan.
Thank you
So,
very
you're
much. I
welcome.
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brown?
To echo the question, the messenger is not an auto messenger, right? That's a real person that we're talking about actually calling each of the
No.
parents?
No,
No.
it's the auto.
It's an automated message.
That's an automated message?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and the automated message would be very general. It's just not saying it's just telling you, giving them an idea to please go and look for a letter coming home or reference them to the website. So we really haven't crafted that message yet. I really want to sit down and think that through, but I wanted to use that as a stopgap to make sure that families were aware.
Sure. Yeah, no, somehow we have to make sure that we actually have acknowledgement somehow.
Yes, right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. And then I just wanted to reiterate and echo the appreciation that you guys have put a lot of thought into this, and it shows. So thank you. I know this is a tough thing to do. It's a tough process to get through, and appreciate all the help that we've gotten.
Thank you.
I just want to add one follow-up question for you. So don't go away, Betty.
I should get my steps in.
Yeah.
She let out a deep breath, so she was finished.
One of the tougher things I've found in 18 years on the school board with redistricting is how do you actually, and this is part of Mr. Schilling's question, or how do you try to accommodate the decisions that haven't been made? In other words, people haven't decided to move here yet,
Right.
but they show up in the summer, they show up next year, they show up in the fall. How do you try to figure out a way to account for some of that? Is there a way?
Well, we looked at our projections. I mean,
Right.
that's
Part
really
of-
what we
part of
base
the-
everything on, is the projections.
Yeah, part of the enrollment projection methodology is what's called a cohort survival method. So what it looks at is, on the average, from year to year, what kind of increase or decrease do you see from one grade level to the next? That will take into account, how am I going to say this, predictable trends. If you have a predictable number of kids who move in over the summer, if you have a steady rate of increase or decrease, it's very difficult to try to account for unexpected large influx of move-ins, that sort of thing. We also look at the live birth rate to predict the kindergarten. So we look at how many students were born in the town, all the townships 5 years prior, and what % of that number of students tends to show up in kindergarten. So we have some methods for doing that. We can't predict everything. We also try to stay on top of whether or not there's developments going in the district. And again, it's kind of a guessing game. If there's a apartment complex, a housing development, that sort of thing going in, how many children might you reasonably expect from that type of housing? But we try to stay on top of all of that to make sure that we can be proactive about making our decisions. Because as Mr. Schilling said, it's not something we want to be doing every year. And we
and that's-
try to
That's why I brought it up.
at least put something in place that will last for several years.
That's why I brought it up, because in 2013, 14,
Yep,
we tried to alleviate
absolutely.
the issues.
Yep.
We did. We brought some relief, and then it went right back up.
Absolutely.
The following year, we did it again, got some relief, and a year later, it went right back up. Now, this time, you're taking that much greater number out of
Absolutely.
there.
Right.
Yep.
But even if you look at your projected numbers and your forward changes and trends, this is only good for maybe 4 years, max.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
unless
three,
the
depending on
trend.
how much the regentrification
Right,
affects.
Exactly, unless the trend changes in the meantime, yeah.
Yeah, I
You're
mean, even
absolutely
with
right.
aging population, and if the public doesn't understand that question, or that statement, the
Yep.
statement is basically, we've had a few years, many years now, where the group going out is much larger than the group coming in. We're finally coming back to that level again,
Yep.
which is taking its toll on a couple of buildings. The other
Absolutely.
buildings, it hasn't at all.
Yeah, and it's, the interesting part is, as you indicated, we're not seeing, when you look at the total district enrollment, necessarily an increase in the total district enrollment. It's decreases in some parts of the district offset by increases in other parts of the district. So it's more of a shift of where the bulk of the population is than it is a total increase in the number of students. So unfortunately, the only way to really address that is through boundary realignment.
Well, and the other issues that have come into play, and Betty, I'm sure you know this since you had to take this time to look at these numbers, and Mr. Sullivan and I talked about this a year ago. As interest rates dropped, housing became more affordable, people moved in, you saw increases in trends start to change from what they were doing before, which was dropping. And as interest rates roll up, you'll see that eventual impact of lesser people buying, and that has an impact on us. But that's not something we can predict or really control, so.
Right.
I wasn't 100% sold on this idea, so just so you understand that. I mean, I know we need to do something. And I don't think it's appropriate to affect 7,000 or 8,000 family, or students and families to deal with problems in 2 buildings. So I can appreciate the time and effort you guys took to analyze all these numbers and bring them forward. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, it's time for the public's comment on this first topic, which is the realignment of the boundaries, both at elementary and middle school. Anyone feeling the need to talk to the board, please step forward, state your name and address, and
Hi, my name is Lisa Botero. I live at 728 West Main Street in Lansdale, and I'm here to speak to you tonight about the redistricting that's being proposed. I'm a parent of 3 students at York Avenue. I'm also the co-president of the Home and School Association and a York Avenue alumni myself, so I'm speaking with a little bit of personal knowledge and history of the school. Obviously, I know the topic of redistricting is never an easy one, and I can say that any family affected by this at our school will be greatly missed. But with that said, I applaud all the effort being made to relieve our school of its current overpopulation burden, and I'm excited for the effects that will have on my own children's education. And I know you touched on this, but I'm hopeful that when making this decision that the board took into consideration and will take into consideration not just the current population, but also the long-term population at York Avenue, so that we're not redistricting again in another year or 2. I also ask that the board take a good look at the current policy about transfer students across the board, not just here at York Avenue. Although I agree that there are certain extenuating circumstances that may necessitate a student to transfer into a school within the district that's not their home school, I don't believe that this is something that should be abused or overused when parents just want their children at certain schools for sometimes social reasons or whatnot. It's been said by the board that they try to accommodate all of these requests when able, but I think that you need to look at the effect that this has on the schools. Schools like York Avenue, for instance, who are moving students out of the building that do belong there in hopes of relieving this overcrowding burden. And I just believe that this is not only unfair to these students moving out, but also counterproductive. I'm also curious how the board will handle it if students that are being redistricted choose to attempt to transfer in, how that will work, what that will look like, and if there will be a set policy for that, or if it's on a first-come, first-served basis. That's it. Thank you.
Excuse me. I would like Betty to respond after I make a comment. You do realize right now, under our school district guidelines, that York Avenue, all except kindergarten, matches it. All of your classes are well below our guidelines. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. And also, well then, Betty, why don't you talk about, we talked about the TOAs 2 weeks ago. If you could, what you do before you approve the TOAs, please?
So when we look at the transfers of attendance, we always look at, obviously, the current enrollment within that grade to make sure that we're not going to oversize that grade. So to answer your question, for example, last year we had, just in York Avenue, we had 14 students transfer into York Avenue, and then we had 9 transfer out. So there was a balance of 5 in between. So everything is carefully analyzed before we make those decisions, because we don't want to overcrowd any of those classrooms. So as the transfers of attendance come in, and especially over the summer, I really tried to hold the line to really approve them till I know that it's clear enough that it's not going to maximize the class.
Thank you. Yeah, last year, we had 147 out, 147 in. It's very common, okay? 9 went out, but 14 came in for York. So you're all talking, but every school, some schools are 11, 20, 20. It's 147 amongst the 13 elementary. So it's happening everywhere. But as Betty says, we take care of the resident students first before they even think about this. And York Avenue, this is the information as of last week. Every classroom over there is below our classroom guidelines. So I hear you, but I'm not sure what you're saying. I'll be honest with you. I mean, You know, if I take fourth grade, classroom guidelines, minimum 25, you're at 18. Most of them are across the board like that. You're doing really well.
Frank, I think our
Compared to many
panelists are
other
telling me it
schools.
worse.
You're doing extremely well compared to the other schools.
I do agree with our class sizes right now, they're great. But I do know kindergarten was one of the classes affected by that, and that's
That's
one
at
of our.
25, right? That's at our max.
Right, but that was one of the classes affected by a transfer student. So I guess the concern is, how are we moving people out? Because our building, not necessarily our classes, are overpopulated, but our building itself is bursting. We have nowhere to put students.
That, York Avenue.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Ma'am, I have no idea what you said because I have a hearing problem. You have to come up here, and right now you have
Frank,
to stand in line.
somebody else is at the
okay?
podium. Let her speak first, Frank. Please
Yeah.
control yourself.
My name is Courtney Penachite. I live at 527 West Mount Vernon Street in Lansdale. A few weeks ago, I sent a letter to each school board member to express concerns that my husband and I both have regarding enrollment and the overcrowded conditions at York Avenue Elementary School. I wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate so many of the responses that I received from you all, and I wanted to publicly thank Mr. O'Donnell and Dr. Dietrich and any of the other board members who took time out of their schedules to visit the school in person to see things firsthand. In recent years, York Avenue, as we've been talking about this evening, has experienced growing numbers, and the district has responded by moving an apartment building and a neighborhood to other catchment areas in a way to alleviate the strain. My hope is that moving forward, the administrators and board members will have, or have already maybe, developed this plan and established boundaries that will offer a long-term solution. I think we can all agree that's what we're hoping for. I would also suggest that the transfer of attendance requests be evaluated with more careful consideration. At the last meeting, one board member stated to me that TOAs balance each other out. I heard it again tonight, 14 kids out, 14 kids in. But I think it's important that we not include students that have IEPs in this idea of a transfer out. A student who is being placed in a district classroom because of an educational plan and a recommendation by their team at school should not be comparatively on the same lines as someone who is requesting a change of attendance for a parent's convenience. Finally, as some of you on the board may know, when I wrote this letter to you guys a few weeks ago, it was brought to my attention that my letter shared with the board members was shared by one of the board members actually with his neighbor without my consent and before giving me the opportunity to speak in a public forum like I am here tonight. After contacting this board member via email to suggest that it was an inappropriate response, he appeared at my front door unannounced. I do not know if this approach is commonplace for board members, but I have to tell you that I found it both peculiar and intimidating. I believe these kinds of behaviors will create an environment of distrust and one where community members and taxpayers are less likely to communicate concerns and ideas to the board. Thank you.
First off, I think choosing transfers of attendance on the basis of IEPs and special ed needs is against the law. It's discrimination, okay? That's the first thing you should know. The second thing is the letter that you sent to the board was to a public official. There was nothing privileged in there with students, so it was discoverable by the Right to Know Act. So I'm not sure why you thought sending a letter to the elected board would be privileged in any way, unless you included information about your family or your child or.
I guess I assumed that as a board member, you guys would just maybe have the automatic character to hold that with confidence and not put a personal friendship and relationship ahead of a position as an elected person on this board. That was my assumption. I'm not saying that what was done was illegal. I just think it speaks of a character when someone takes a letter that was sent to them as a board member and takes it to a neighbor to let them know, just so you know, the Panachitas wrote a letter to the school board. So now when I go to school events, my husband and I both feel as though we're treated differently by families that are at York Avenue because of a letter that we chose to write. Now, tonight, I'm choosing to go public. I'm writing my name down. I'm speaking here. I know I'm on television. That's a different situation than when I wrote that letter, thinking that it would just be respected a little bit more.
When I first got your email about that, just so you know, and I mentioned it earlier to you in my response today, I believe. I did go back and read your other emails just to see, because I thought possibly if you had put personal or confidential in there, I would have respected it that way. But honestly, it is a discoverable thing. When people send us letters all the time, we get communications from the public. That stuff is discoverable unless it's privileged information about your family or some special need that you have, or whatever other reasons fall under the right to, or exceptions to the Right to Know Act. But other things like that are not
Well,
privileged
that's good to
information.
know in the future,
Yeah.
personally, and I guess I can ask other board members how they feel about it, whether they would have done the same thing, sharing the information in that letter with their neighbors.
When you sent your letter, did you send it to the full board?
I did.
Okay. I thought that's what the letter we were all talking about, because when I brought it to the meeting myself, the night I talked to you, I mentioned it to some of the other board members. Some of the people said they got it. Not everybody. I didn't talk to everybody about it. Yeah, everybody, I think a few people forwarded it to the superintendent for you.
And I had wonderful phone conversations. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the email responses. I thank you for going out in person and
I got an
seeing,
eyeful.
and seeing firsthand kids on the floor, kids in closets. So I know that, and I appreciate it. I guess I just was really shocked and quite frankly appalled that that information was shared, because when I went to the science fair for my children, we were given mean looks, dirty looks, totally shunned by other
Sorry to-
parents.
sorry to
And
hear
it's,
that.
what was that?
I said, I'm sorry that
And
those people
it
treated you
really
like that.
has made attending school events uncomfortable because of that. Now, tonight, I'm choosing to make it public, but I might as well now, because people know anyway. So I feel like that was really unfair. And I think it was, quite frankly, it spoke to that board member's character.
Just so you know, when you sent that letter out, I went over. Apparently, they all knew about it, and they had already been working on this plan, just so you know.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. The other person? Come on up. State your name and address for us.
Chastity Ruby, 347 York Avenue. I have two girls at York Avenue. I apologize for speaking out. My point was just the fact that it's not necessarily the classroom sizes as it is the school itself. My daughter does reading programs, and she sits on the floor for the reading programs. And just during National Education Week, my mother and I visited the school, and we had to step over my daughter to visit my other daughter in one of the classrooms. It's really disheartening, and it's very distracting to the children, a lot of the situations and scenarios that they are in. So it's not, like you saw, it's not necessarily the classroom sizes, it's the whole of the building.
And
Well, it's a combination of a 100-year-old plus building, too.
Right.
I mean, remember, it's one of our oldest schools built over 100 years, I think, isn't it now?
Remember, when we renovated that building, a lot of people understood that.
Yeah, that was one of the sacrifices we had with an older
We
building.
were contemplating closing that school, and people came out in droves and said, no, we understand that there's, as you call, functional obsolescence in the building.
Right.
And we did the best we could with what was there.
Right.
So I'm not making an excuse for what you're saying. I think you make a good point.
Yeah, and I
beautiful
understand that the
Yeah,
school is
yeah,
small, but I also understand that bringing more people in there
Well,
unnecessarily is
It's-
not really a good
And yeah, and it's not even the
either.
fact that the school is small, it's just, it's older, the rooms are smaller, the whole halls are smaller, the door, everything's smaller.
Right.
The 100-year-old rules and technology ago compared to the modern schools, and that's one of the difficulties. Mr. Schilling's right, we had this conversation with hundreds of people when they came out to talk about supporting York Avenue, and we did, and we invested money in it, and that was always one of the challenges. There's not enough small group rooms, there's not enough small meeting rooms, there's just stuff not there because the school never had it, so.
Right.
It's a difficult task, but you're right, I agree with your point that it's not about the
Right.
class size as
And
much
it's-
as it is sometimes.
And as far as what Courtney is saying, I also want to just say real quick that hearing everything that happened, I think it's a matter of trust. And you're saying it's legally, you're allowed to say whatever
Oh,
you
no,
want
no,
or
I'm
share
just-
the information, but the trust issue is an issue, I think, for parents.
I agree, and I tell you what, I really feel bad that people would look at, treat you differently because you have an opinion.
Right, and we're
mean, that's just the
entitled
way
to
it
our
is.
opinion, and I think that I should
Yeah, I
be
mean, it
able to
happens to
share
us
my
all the time.
opinion
See, she's laughing.
without having a board member show up at my front door and feel intimidated to ever speak to any one of you in confidentiality or in an open manner.
I hope people don't get intimidated when I call them back.
No, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on with our Part 2 technology update.
Thank you, Mr.
Who's in charge of
President.
that?
Dr. Locher and some of our staff will be doing a presentation on our technology.
Another PowerPoint? I gotta move for this one.
Move away
I gotta
again.
move away. I'm gonna move out of the way so I can see it. So I can read it.
Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to hear what we have been doing over the past few years in technology. 2 years ago, in October, okay,
So much for technology.
Thanks for technology, really. We just AD muted on you.
Projector auto off.
oh, it's.
We're saving energy.
I went to sleep. It's set up to go on sleep. There it goes.
The board didn't go to sleep this morning, right?
That'd be bad.
All right, let's try this again. So about 2 years ago in October, I think it was October 2012, I was here and Brett was here, and we talked to you about the need for a lot of infrastructure updates. And you were very supportive in that, and we did a major wireless update over the last several years, as well as switches and other infrastructure. And that has resulted in the ability for classrooms to use technology with a bit more density and across more areas. In addition to infrastructure, we also did a lot of research in the last several years as far as what other schools are doing and what other countries are doing. And many of you know that we had a summit with a Korean group several years ago, and they presented what they were doing in their building. And we were not able to implement at that time. Our wireless was not in place, and we had the infrastructure problems. But from that, we've taken many of those ideas, and they are embedded in our current comprehensive plan, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. There's my wheel. I mean, I worked really hard on my wheel, because when we bring technology and pedagogy and curriculum together, we get digital resources. Wow, that was supposed to be so wonderful, and it was really a dud.
Just in case I'm not the only person in the room that doesn't know what pedagogy is, could you explain?
Instructional strategies, what you're doing for instruction in the classroom. Okay, and at any time we say something you don't know, just stop us and we'll explain.
You'll never get through the presentation.
One of the things that's really exciting is not only are we infusing the hardware and all of the wiring into our buildings right now, but as we move forward with new curriculum and developing new curriculum and meeting new curricular needs, we really are thinking about technology in a very different way. And so when we looked at our comprehensive plan this year and we decided, like, what direction did we want North Penn to move forward with, we really wanted curriculum and technology to be connected so that we could really implement the PA core standards. And part of the PA core standards really emphasizes communication, collaboration, creative thinking, and critical thinking skills. Technology really supports that with our students and their learning. We also realize that with curriculum development and gaining more resources and materials, that through technology we're able to individualize learning more effectively, We're able to address the digital needs of our students. Our students today are truly digital natives. I don't know a child today that's not attached to a smartphone. I don't know a child that doesn't use technology really on a daily basis in their lives. And we also want to prepare our students for the future. We know that in career and college readiness standards, knowing about media, having media literacy, computer literacy, is also as important as literacy and math and science. Just a little case that I wanted to share with you, just something that is a very personal example. My son is currently back home from spring break, and I highly doubt he's watching this tonight, so I think I'm on safe ground sharing this. But he is a biochemistry major at the University of Pittsburgh. One of the things I thought was really interesting was that as he was talking about, well, what was he doing in college right now, he's participating in a research study, and he showed me exactly the work that he was doing. Everything that he's doing is online. He is looking at digitized cancer cells, outlining the digitized cancer cells, translating that all into data, and turning that data around for his research professor that he's working with, all at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And so one of the things that really I think I was very impressed with was that his learning and what he is doing is so infused with technology. I really felt confident that the direction that North Penn is going in really infusing technology and learning was where we wanted our students to be so that they are going to be prepared for career and college readiness.
Tony, excuse me. When we first came on the board, we found out the computers were sitting in the back of the classroom, never touched. Remember that, 4th grade? Never touched. This is great, you're doing this, but what we found back then, and the same question today, what is being done to make sure that the teachers are up to speed with the curriculum? This is a lot of hardware. But tell me something like, yes, we have classes, we're teaching the teachers how to go through the curriculum, we're sending them to school. What is North Penn doing for the teachers that are going to be teaching the kids how to use this hardware?
Well, that's actually a great question, and we've got some examples to share with you of what students and teachers are doing with technology and with learning. One of the ways that we're really kind of melding curriculum and instruction and technology is that as we develop new curriculum and as we explore new resources and adopt new resources and implement them in the classroom, curriculum and technology are intertwined. And we've got a few examples today to show you how they're intertwined, and you really can't teach the curriculum without using the technology to support it. So we've got a few examples with that. I'm going to let Dr. Lutcher talk about the professional development that we have in place to ensure teachers have the support to know how to use the technology that's in front of them.
Yes, buying hardware and not preparing teachers is not what we do at North Penn. And we make our decisions for technology purchases based on the curriculum, first of all. And then we know that we have to not only teach our teachers how to use the technology, but then how to infuse that into the curriculum. And so we offer seminars in the morning, seminars in the afternoon, after school. We are working with our curriculum supervisors, special education supervisors, and our administrators so that they know how to use the tools and can model that when they're working with teachers in their building. And during PLC time. And then we have this gentleman behind us. Come on up here, Brett.
Hi, I'm Brett Baker. I'm e-learning coach for the district. I'll introduce myself. And I cover pre-K to 12, 18 buildings, plus our 3 preschools that all have iPads, which feed into, many of them feed into our kindergartens. And so throughout the day, you'll find me at multiple buildings with multiple groups, and professional development really is, it's where I live every day, morning, noon, and late afternoon.
I thought you were going to say night.
But I think you will agree, hopefully you will agree, that one Brett Baker e-learning coach for a district this size does wonderful things, but we need to do more. And that's always decisions that are tough to make. Get them bigger rooms? Okay. All right. Let me talk to you now about the Technology Comprehensive Plan, which again takes its cue from the Curriculum Comprehensive Plan. But at our elementary schools, and in doing this, I worked closely with Tony and several committees. At the elementary level, because of the digital resources that are being infused at that level, and because of evaluations that we did in the district between iPads and laptops, we made the decision to use iPads in K-1-2 and laptops in 3-4-5-6. This school year, we had a one-to-one classroom initiative for third grade with laptops, and we have done some of the second grade iPads. Next year, fourth grade and sixth grade, and we were going to do actually kindergarten and sixth grade and fourth grade next year, but then Tony came and she said, well, you know, we're doing this with curriculum next year with ELA, so we adjusted. So you can see how we adjust those kinds of things depending on what the curriculum need is. So in fourth grade and sixth grade, we're going to be continuing with mini laptops. And what that means is that there is a cart of laptops in every classroom. And the student picks it up at the beginning of the day, just like he or she picks up books or pencils, and they use it throughout the day. They go to library, and there's a library lesson that is associated with that. They take it to library. They can take it to music. They can take it to art. All right, so it is just another resource that's with them all day long. And then in the 16-17 school year, we'll finish off the one-to-one at the elementary school, but actually in kindergarten and first grade, we're going to do 2-to-1, and that will be iPads. Moving to the middle school level, this year in middle school, we had tech books for social studies in grade 7 and reading collections in grade 7. And so we made sure that we had additional laptops, mini laptop carts for those areas. Again, curriculum need, we address the curriculum need with the infusion of technology. For the 15-16 school year, we're going to do a major refresh. If you've been out in our secondary classrooms or our IMCs, we desperately need to upgrade. Many of the laptops that we are currently using are 7 and 8 years old. And so we're going to refresh at the secondary classrooms with mini laptops, and the IMCs and the tech ed and the art labs are also going to be done. In the 16-17 school year, we're going to continue refreshing the remaining labs and classrooms and offices. And also in that year, we'll be going to Windows 10 and Office 2013. We are not going to go to Windows 8 as we originally thought we were going to, because if you look at Windows 10, which is coming out in June, and we will not implement anything right away when it comes out. You have to wait a while for all the bugs to get out of it, patches, this kind of thing. But Windows 10 is going back to the look of Windows 7. Good. And you will have the attributes in Windows 10 that you can put on a touch screen like Windows 8, and you can make it look like Windows 8 with the matrix if you want, or you can take it back to Windows 10 to Windows 7 kind of look. So that's where we're going with hardware. But again, I want to stress to you that besides a refresh and having to update currently what is out there so that students can use it more and more, we also really base decisions on curriculum and what we're doing in that area.
Excuse me. When you said the refresh offices, does that mean everybody will be using the same version of Microsoft Excel and Word?
They are now. They're all
Because
using.
I've got spreadsheets at home. There were 2 versions ago.
Right now they're using, no, well, they're using Office 10 and they're using Windows 7. All right?
That's right.
I have to convert spreadsheets sometimes from 2005 or to.
They make you save old files, that's all.
And certainly, if you need assistance or you have something that we
I
need
have
to
no problem
address,
converting.
we'll be happy to help you.
You can go up, but it's hard to go down. You lose attributes.
I understand. All right, with these additional laptops, we are going to have to expand the wireless Our head end can take the expansion, and then we'll have to add more access points, switchers, and router upgrade. We have applied for E-rate Category 2 this year, which is the first time the district has been able to apply for Category 2 for equipment, because there is so much money in E-rate that we have a very strong feeling that that will be supported. So what that means is, and that's supposed to happen for both this year and the next year. So this year at the elementary level, we're going to be upgrading switches and routers and replacing cabling with Cat 6 and new access points, and we will have a 50% discount on that if E-rate is approved. Next year we'll do the secondaries. The other thing that technology and curriculum work very, very closely is for blended learning, online learning, professional development, and just day-to-day support.
Quick question.
Yes.
Are all the assets that you were talking about, those are all being provided by North Penn School District? Are students bringing in their own at this point as well, or how's that?
Good question. Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that? Oh, you can go ahead.
All right,
Step right
I'll
up.
tough it out. No, currently, it's all supplied by North Penn School District, and we've discussed BYOD, so which is bring your own device, but we're really not there yet, and that, along with BYOD, brings a whole new set of criteria for the teachers and being able to understand every device that's coming into their classroom. And so from a teacher perspective, we're not really ready to roll out a BYOD yet for across the board in all our classrooms. Do you want to say
However-
more?
Yes.
However.
Show up with an iPad, it'll be networked, or?
Yes, we do have a guest network in place. The new wireless system allowed us to put a guest network. And 2 years ago, we revised the personal electronic device use policy so that middle school and high school students could bring in those devices and use them in classrooms if they had them with permission from the teacher, but only for instructional purposes. So we do have a number of students who are using their smartphones. Some of them do have iPads that they're bringing in, or another kind of tablet, and they do connect to the guest network and use them for instructional purposes. And we'll mention one of the areas that they're doing that when we go through the highlights. At the elementary level, when we first put that policy in place, the elementary level was not ready for that. However, Dr. Santoro came to me in December and said, we're ready. We're ready for grades 4, 5, and 6. And so we modified the regulation for that policy, and now we are piloting at the elementary level if students want to bring in something like a Kindle or a reader of some kind. We don't want the elementaries attaching to the network at this point, all right, but at the middle school and the high school, they are.
And then are most of the texts available electronically at this point then, if you're talking about bringing in Kindles and things of that nature? Like the English books, the literature, the science
Well, for the
books?
students at the middle school and the high school, there are a lot of online resources that go with the textbooks, and they can access them on their devices, whether they access them here or at home.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
And I just wanted to mention, as we adopt new curriculum, as we, in fact, we at ECP last night are moving forward with a number of new textbook adoptions. All of those textbooks come with e-textbook or online textbook access. So it is kind of the standard practice today as you're purchasing hardback, regular, traditional textbooks, to also do the e-textbooks as well.
So our
students-
contracts for new book licensing is coming with the electronic
Yes,
available
yes,
to
and
it?
it comes with it. It usually comes with a standard 5 to 6 year period where you do not pay for it. Anything beyond that period is negotiable, or you do pay a subscription fee for it.
One of the shifts that we're seeing in the textbook publishing industry is more and more of a shift of resources to the online platform as opposed to on a paper format. I'm not going to be at all surprised if within the next decade, a quote textbook publisher isn't printing a paper book anymore at all.
Yeah, it's good for everybody. I mean,
Absolutely.
including the little kids' backs. I mean, yeah.
Okay, we have a few highlights for you now, and Tony's going to talk to you about mathematics.
I'm really excited about this. In the last few years, not only have we adopted at the elementary level the Go with Math program, but as we continue to adopt new resources, the resources that come with it, the electronic online resources, are very robust. And so tonight we're going to share with you some examples of how parents, how students, how teachers are using technology in the classroom, how it is really infused with the curriculum, and how students are really engaged with the use of these online learning supports. The one thing that I did want to share with you that's actually not a video that we're really excited about is at the high school, we've recently purchased new TI Inspire calculators. Just a show of hands for the school board members, how many of you remember using slide rulers when you were learning mathematics?
And chemistry.
So I had to show my son recently a slide ruler because he just didn't believe me as I purchased his third graphing calculator in his schooling career, because each time he had to get the newest calculator because the class didn't accept the older version. So anyway, these new TI Inspires, if you get a chance to go to the high school and go to some of our upper level math courses, these TI Inspires are really more smartphone-like, or like just like iPad-like, although they're in a smaller size. Then they resemble the old traditional graphing calculators. And I'm even chuckling to myself by saying old traditional graphing calculators, because we just mentioned those sliding rulers just a little bit ago. But they have these just amazing graphics. They have the ability to collect data, and they have the ability to generate some amazing programs that are highly useful in both not only their high-level math classes, but also in their science classes as well. And this is the technology that we see being used out in industry. Again, it's very exciting. Would be more than happy to share some of that information with school board members if you want to take a look at it. But I think the video that we're showing to you tonight is really from our elementary program. We've just adopted in grades K through 6 the Go Math program, and with it, it came with a very robust online resource. Students don't have to worry about having the Brooks home with them or remembering their homework sheets. It's all available online. They just simply download it. There's also animated math models that help students remember what they were taught that day, and there are also parent resources as well. So without further ado.
And this is actually a video of a parent talking about her children using the Go Math at home. And I want you to listen closely when her fifth grader is talking about what he likes to do in mathematics. Guarantee that we didn't do this in fifth grade.
I'm Laura, and I'm a parent at Nash Elementary School. In a real practical way, it's helped when our older son has forgotten his homework, and even the little ones who sometimes, that they can go on and there's an online version of their math workbook, so they can easily go in, replicate the assignment that they have, and then they can get it done. So that saves us a lot of time and angst right there. And another way is when they get stuck on a concept, there are tools that are on the website where they can go in and just kind of recheck it, they can relook at it. And then a third way it can help is these games that they're playing. They can keep practicing the concepts that they're working with in class, but a fun way to engage, and it's a nice way to kind of sneak in some learning while they're playing games on the computer.
Hi, I'm Matthew, and I'm in grade 5. I like going on algebra and doing coordinate grids.
Math has changed so much in the many years since I've been in 2nd and 5th grade, and the terms have changed, and the algorithms have changed, and the steps have changed. So this gives me the language that they use, so I can go in, look over their shoulder and see, okay, what are the terms we're using for this particular function now? And that has helped us an awful lot as well.
Dude, this is 1944.
Our next video clip is from Phys Ed, and I know that they were here, what was it, in October, Diane, to talk about FitnessGram. So, and they're working on the connection between physical fitness and academic progress in the classroom.
Hi, I'm Jason Theodore. I'm the phys ed teacher here at Montgomery Elementary School, and this morning we exercised with our group, and we did what's called a running pyramid using the interval timer from my iPad. The kids ran for 1 minute, and then 3 minutes, then 5 minutes, and then back down the other side of the pyramid from 3 minutes down to 1. At the end of our session today, we did some sprints to get the heart rates of the kids up above their target zone, and to increase their muscular strength and cardiovascular endurance. Our goal for this program is for the kids to get their heart rates up within the zone, within their target heart rate zone, and keep it there for a minimum of 20 minutes. So as we are running and doing our exercises, the kids are checking their heart rates to make sure that they're within the zone that they need to be. We've done a lot of research on physical fitness and academic performance, and what we're trying to do with our program here is prove that as the kids keep their heart rates within their healthy fitness zone or their target heart rate zone, that it's also going to help improve their academic performance. So our 4th graders within our program go directly to language arts, and our 5th graders go directly to math. So we're going to track their scores and see if there's a correlation between physical fitness and academic performance. Technology is an integral part in our program because it keeps things moving along, and the kids understand how to use them, and we have enough devices that the kids can self-monitor their heart rates, and we can just incorporate a lot of different things all very, very quickly using the technology that we have.
I just wanted to share one example of how we've infused curriculum with technology. Recently, as the physical education department shared with you, we revamped their PE program down at the elementary level, and we now use a software program called FitnessGram. Part of what you didn't see there is that they're actually tracking for each child their success, how fast they've been running, their heart rates, how good that they have been keeping track and working towards a physical fitness goal. And so we're really excited about that because in that particular case, we really see that the ability to do the personal fitness curriculum is tightly linked with the technology. So they've got the heart rate monitors that the kids pick up. Kids track their own heart rate. They input it into the iPads that we've given to the PE teachers, and students are able to get immediate feedback on how well they're progressing towards their physical fitness goals.
The next video is just showing how the one-to-one laptop initiative in 3rd grade is going. Before I show you that, I do want to address the other areas. We do have a world language video clip and a science video clip that we just felt we were going to run out of time, and I'm probably not going to go to the 7th grade reading collection, but they are all online. Bob has them online. He's been so wonderful to get this together for us. So I would encourage you to please go and take a look at every one of those, because science is about biology in a flipped classroom, and world language is about using an iPhone for conversation and texting in the foreign language in the classroom. It's really very, very interesting. So here is 3rd grade.
My name is Amy Benner. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at General Nash Elementary, and we're lucky enough to have a one-on-one program here with the 3rd grade students and the mini laptops. And today we are working on a research piece in addition to working on Publisher. The kids are researching different states and coming up with many different facts, places to visit, and then taking all that information and putting it into a trifold or a brochure through Publisher. We have researched in the library with print resources, but we're also trying to encourage them to use kid-friendly World Book online, things that I've worked with the librarian to find some interesting facts, interesting places to visit, state symbols, the state nickname, things like that. The kids are then taking that information, putting it into Publisher in a trifold, in a brochure format, learning how to manipulate all those text boxes, but then also citing their information. And that's a big piece, especially as they get older through the grades. Final product, right, is going to be this travel brochure. We could have done this project without the computers, but it would have taken a lot of time. I think the excitement from the kids, they keep asking to work on it. When are we going to do it? And I think if we went back to the paper kind of copy. We could do it, but with the limited resources, it would take a long time. We'd have to sign out the computers. You know, having these one-on-ones and having this information at their fingertips has been great. It's been fantastic. We have kids that come in the beginning of the year who don't quite know how to even save to their H drive. We have kids now that can make a PowerPoint, can get on Publisher. They've been kid blogging. They know all the ins and outs. They can save to their favorite bar. They can go on extra math at the drop of a hat real quick to get on their facts. It's been wonderful having this resource in the classroom. We use them every day for some piece of information, some piece of learning. They're used every day. The kids absolutely love them.
And the important part of that I would ask you to take away is they are being used every day. They're being used for a variety of curriculum content areas. And the other thing, too, is that with digital citizenship, one of the things that we are all charged with is to provide equitable access for our students. And so for students who do not have digital devices at home, having these things in the classroom and showing them how to use them productively is really very, very important. We are going to go to a last video on RASKids. Brett is going to talk to you about that in just a second or two, and he's going to take you through an activity so that you have an idea of what RASKids does. But this video on RASKids is phenomenal. And you spoke before about devices not being used. Well, the teacher that is using the iPads in this video, this cart of iPads came from another school that they were not using them. And we monitor the usage of our computers. And we found that it was not being used. We did staff development. We talked to them. Finally, I went to the principal and says, I have to move it because it's not being used and I have somebody that will use them. And so we moved it then to this elementary school, and this teacher has done wonderful things. And in addition to the use of the computer, I want you to notice his classroom structure based on seminars. This is a classroom of second graders that are doing seminars, and it's not just for the video. They are doing this day after day. They have ownership in their learning. It's just phenomenal. Brett?
Oh, you want me to speak about it right now, too? In this particular classroom, seminars, instead of calling them centers, he chose to call them seminars, and he sets them up in the beginning of the week, and so the students have 2 to 3 days to complete their center work or their seminars, and then there's certain ways that they can accomplish some of the tasks, and then other tasks are they're choosing, so they can pick how they want to accomplish the task, which is really what we're trying to teach our students, is to think on their own, and it's happening in this classroom. It's happening beautifully. So I think we should roll the video, Robin.
Right. And then Brett's going to take you through the instructions on using your iPads.
Now, if I wrote the sentence, I can put the cause where? My name is Matt Conley. I'm a second grade teacher at Oak Park, and today you're going to be seeing my students use one-to-one iPads during our language arts session. We have a seminar approach where the kids are doing independent learning, where they have 6 or 7 seminars that they'll be working over for 3 days, and each day they have 4 seminars, so they choose what activities that they're going to be doing. I'll be in the front of the room doing a guided reading group, and during that time we'll be reading from RASKids, which is an app that the kids work with. It has the kids on their reading level, and I work with them at an instructional level, and then when they're on their own, they're reading at a independent level. And the great thing about that is that they have been using that from the beginning of the year, and the growth that I've seen just by having them being able to read every day at their level and move along has been huge. With RASKids, when they read independently, they have an opportunity to have the story read to them, and then they can read it independently themselves. Once they're done reading it independently, there is an option for them to take a quiz. The quiz consists about anywhere between 5 to 12 questions, and then they get instant results as whether what was right or what was incorrect, and then they actually have an opportunity to go back into the story, look for correct answers, and then take the quiz again. Having the iPads one-to-one, it gives the kids an opportunity to work at their own level. We're in a world where we're trying to create problem solvers and multitaskers. And having these gives us opportunity for them to work on various different apps for different activities. It becomes kind of like a tool belt. The different apps are tools in their belt to use depending on the activity or depending on the problem that they're trying to solve. Now it's their job to kind of sit back and think about, okay, well, here's what I'm being asked to do. Here are the tools available to me. Which one makes sense? One of the things that happens every morning is they put their bag away, they put their folder away, they get their iPad goes to the table. Just like the pencil, just like an eraser, it's on the table from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. It's not like it's just iPad time. Okay, the idea is that we're incorporating the technology into everything we do throughout the day. So there's various times that we're doing something and a question will pop up and I'll say, okay, grab your iPad. Go look, go see, and explore it that way. To use it as a tool as opposed to just something that we set 15 minutes aside and, okay, it's time to use our iPads on this particular app. It's not me kind of handing it out, spoon feeding it out. It's them taking charge and excited about what they're doing. And that's been really, interesting to see grow and develop throughout the year.
They say that if you find oil in the ground, you're rich.
This is true. This is true.
In addition to RAS Kids, I just want to touch on, before we go to the iPad time, I want to touch on a couple other things, and that is RAS Kids is a subscription that we have in grades K through 3, and we're going to talk a little bit more about RAS Kids tonight. We also have Newsella, which is another nonfiction source of news that's leveled for our readers, and we have that subscription in grades 4 through 6. And then I want to jump to 7th grade, where we started our collections reading program in our exploratory English classes this year. And I've done a lot of work with the 7th grade and a lot of training working on those digital resources. The program is very rich, and we have a great video from one of our teachers, Denise Calbretta, who has done an awesome job in 7th grade. All our 7th grade teachers that are working in collections, because it's so new, it's new for the company as well. It's very challenging because it's new ground for everybody. It's new ground for us. It's new ground for all of the teachers that are teaching it. And you can see by looking at the 2nd grade class and the 3rd grade class how imperative it is to keep rolling that technology up. So next year, we have to have technology in 4th grade to support all those students that are in 2nd grade right now and 3rd grade getting all that technology. So 4th grade, it's imperative for them to have it. So now I'm going to jump to the iPads. And this isn't my normal structure because I would be running around the classroom at this point in time, just making sure everybody was in place online, working with the teacher. And as you open your iPad, if you would open your iPad now and find my name, Brett Baker, I am your teacher right now, and I'm going to send you off once you tap on my name, and then you probably have to say go. No, just tap on my name. And then you should be able to find your name on that list somewhere. Is everybody's name on the list? Once you find your name, okay, I'm jumping over to help out. So just find your. All you have to do is find your name. Once you find your name, tap on your name one time, and that will open up a panel of icons. In the panel of icons, everyone is a furry bunny. So that's your password today. So one tap on the bunny and then go.
We're a bunch of second graders.
I can't hear you. Your microphone's not on, sir.
We're a bunch of
Once you
second
hit
graders.
go, now you're in space, and up on the left-hand side, your assignment, I've adjusted all of your reading levels. And so one tap on your assignment,
Low grade.
and it will take you to a pile of books. Now, in this collection, there's over 400 books, and they're leveled from really K up to mid-third grade level. And those books are really used during independent reading time. While the teacher might be doing guided reading, the students are reading independently. Scholastic just published a piece talking about independent reading being fun and what a difference it makes on young readers if what they're reading is fun. So if you look at a book, you'll see underneath the book there's 3 choices. The first choice, the book will read to you. The second choice, you can read the book. The third choice is you take a quiz on the book. And the quiz is really 4 or 5 questions. So right now, just pick a book and let the book read to you. And they're all on lower levels, and that was done intentionally because I picked higher level books thinking, well, it's a higher level crowd. And the books were long, and I thought I'll never get through it in this rate. So just check out your book and just let it play for a minute if you're doing the first option, or if you choose the second option, read it yourself. Just flip through the pages. I don't see you picked a book.
I know.
I just wanted to share the program that you're currently looking at, RAS Kids. Not only are we using this in our everyday English language arts class and reading classes in our primary grade levels, but this is actually a very important program in our English as a second language program. They use this particular program quite frequently, and we actually use it in a wider grade span. We actually use it from K through 6th grade with our ESL students. It's been very popular with them, and there are a number of different attributes to this program that allows them to practice their English language acquisition.
Do I have to go back?
A very, very versatile program.
How do you just close it? Oh, I didn't see that.
That closes the whole thing out. You come back
Mr.
in.
O'Donnell, could you turn off your microphone at this time, please?
Okay?
Okay, I
didn't do very well.
I got 100 stars.
finish your book.
All right, just a note about RAS Kids. One of the things that makes this nice is that each individual student is responsible for their own reading. So they can read in school or they can read at home using RAS Kids. And once they get past this particular reading level, RAS Kids will automatically move them up to the next level. And all along the way, they're taking quizzes. And those quizzes are tied into strategies in the classroom. And so a teacher can look at their quizzes and say, this student is not getting cause and effect. And so then it helps reinforce some instruction, and they're able to do some teaching just focused with that student on cause and effect, which really adds value to this independent reading program, because not only is it fun, but the teachers are able to go back and see the progress that's being done by all the students. All right, so now close your iPads.
What? How do I do that?
All right, go ahead and,
Can I
go
just
ahead.
say one more thing? while you're closing your iPads, I just want to make a comment. And that comment is, now, Dr. Lutcher is saying, oh no, he's going to make a comment. At some point last year, we got this room looped for people who are hard of hearing. I wear 2 hearing aids, and this board meeting, I have been able to hear the entire meeting as long as the microphones were turned on. I was able to hear everything that happened in here because that loop, and that loop came because people in this room said, yeah, it's something that we need. So I want to thank Mr. Gilmer and everyone in this room for making that a reality for me. And of course for Mr. O'Donnell, but it really makes a huge difference for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett.
Well, I got 150 points and 5 for 5 on my quiz.
So I guess now that you can go from first grade to second grade.
I'll be back next week.
Just kidding. All right, we're going to finish. Tony and I will finish out with some comments here, but again, thank you for the time. We do have to have continued professional development. And the other thing I want to say about the apps that are on our iPads at every level is they are always vetted before they go on to make sure that they are a curriculum match. And most of our apps are free. Special ed has a lot of them that are paid, but our apps out there in the regular classroom are free. And Brett has established a user group out there with several teachers that go through and vet the apps. They look online for them to find new apps for the different areas, and then they vet them and we get them installed then. So that's a real wonderful process. So going further, we're going we're going to be using more learning, blended learning opportunities, online resources, and I'll let Tony speak to specifics coming in 15-16.
We're really looking forward to 15-16 as far as new curriculum and new curriculum materials and resources that are online. And, you know, for some of you, if you just actually step out in the hallway, you'll see some of the books that we're going to be adopting. But we are really excited about the new elementary ELA program. It comes with a very robust online program that supports parents, it supports students learning at home with parents and families, as well as we are increasing or kind of expanding the use of our discovery education tech books and social studies, where teachers have a media-rich resource where they can teach social studies and American history and link it to current events right away in a just-in-time manner. So if it happened in the morning, they get it on their Discovery Ed tech book, and they can talk about it with students for that just-in-time learning and take advantage of it. So we're really excited about those, and we're looking forward to all the other exciting programs and resources to really make learning rich for kids.
Tony, question. Has there been any discussion on using these with kids with IEPs? Because it appears
I'm going to let Robin to discuss that because she's integral in the work that we've done with IEPs.
Yes, 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 and yes. We have a plan as to where we're putting them out, but we have hundreds of iPads out there for students with 504s and IEPs. And they are all individualized. They all have specific apps that are for those children. Many times before they are actually put into the IEP, they go through what is called the SET process, where they define the iPad and the tools that they want to use, and they work with the student with it for several months to see if it's going to be what they need, and if not, they make an adjustment and then keep on trying it until they get exactly what they need, and then it's purchased, and then that iPad stays with that student year after year after year. All right, and so it just moves along with them. So that special ed really has done a lot of work with that, and we know that when we get a request for a SET or for an IEP, that has to be prioritized because the clock is ticking. And the way we do that in the tech department is we have a Google Doc online, and when that request goes in, I get an email so that I have to look at it to make sure that, where it has to be sent next so that we stay within those timelines. But yes, And they're also used quite a lot, not individually with students, but in the autistic classroom. Many of our autistic teachers have requested them for use in that classroom. And so they're doing wonderful things with them.
Thank you.
One last note about professional development. You know, you might say, well, how do you decide what you're going to do? We just finished a survey for our teachers in professional development, and there was a section in there on computers and technology. And so we have that. Let me just see if I can pull this up here. Oh, it's not there. Where is that? Okay, anyway, we are going to be using the results from that. And then we have another vehicle that we use. It's called Bright Bites. It's an online survey that we give every year in May for students in grades 3 through 12. And teachers take it and students take it so that we can gauge where they are improving in a whole host of skills across the board. So again, I thank you for your attention and for the opportunity tonight. Any last questions?
Thank you.
We had asked at ECP that we have a very active, and I just want to say thank you. It makes such a difference to have the hands-on. It's nice. We really like when you come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments to the left?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, too. Great presentation.
Any comments to the right?
Yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks to the camera people. They're hanging in there, too.
Wait, I personally can't get enough of this stuff, so the more electronics, you've got a proponent on this end of the table. The more of this that we see, the better. When you guys talk about upgrading the networks, I'm sitting here counting the number of IP addresses that each student is probably going to have on their body at any one given time, between a bracelet, an iPad, a Kindle, and maybe even requiring a laptop, and just what that might look like in the future. Or we were just mentioning the TI calculators. So what is that, 4, if not 5 IP addresses just on the network? Yeah. Oh, yeah, and most of them in the high school are probably carrying cell phones, right? So they all want to be on the guest network at any moment as well. So, yeah, from a networking standpoint, it's an intense undertaking, and from trying to get these integrated into the school system, it's just an amazing start, and keep going.
And to Tony and to really Diane, I've been pushing for this. I know Joe, years ago, we were both really pushing for this stuff, because since we had that E-Summit with the Koreans. And I feel like after 3 or 4 years or whatever it's been, we're finally getting there. I really enjoyed the last part about what the teachers can see, how the teachers can see the progress of the student. That really excites me. I like that. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Does the public have any comment to the technology updates? All right. Going forward, we are moving the realignment forward. Any comments to that? Then, motion to adjourn this? Oh, yes, before hold on. We do have, back up. We have received letters from the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. We have our representative up this year for reappointment to that position. And you still have to win, I believe, an election, right? Isn't that the way it works? From this board. Right. Can we do it tonight? No, we'll do it at our action meeting as a formal. Then we'll have to send a letter to them stating it. And I just wanted to know that Mrs. Murphy has offered her services to the IU again as our representative. And if no one disagrees with that, we'll move that forward also in our action meeting in the 20th? No, 19th, isn't it? 19th. 19th.
2 days after St. Patrick's.
Exactly. All right, we have a motion to adjourn? Done.